Do you ever feel like society is just running on this broken, exhausting treadmill?
Oh, absolutely. Like the rules are made by a few people at the top and the rest of us are just kind of stuck paying the bill.
Right, exactly. And, what if the story of Joseph and the coat of many colors isn't actually this great story of triumph? What if it's the exact moment humanity got hacked with, like a 4,000-year-old software glitch?
A glitch called artificial scarcity. Yeah, it completely changes how you view the modern world when you start looking at it that way.
It really does. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at this fascinating stack of sources detailing a framework known as the Diamond Perspective.
Right, it's this comprehensive model that basically argues humanity has been running on a really glitchy, scarcity-driven operating system. The author calls it the Gray Diamond.
And the whole mission of our deep dive today is to explore the transition out of that outdated system. We're going to unpack how you and society at large can upgrade to this higher consciousness, abundance-based framework.
The Red Diamond.
Exactly, the Red Diamond. We'll explore how to reboot our personal operating systems to construct what the texts refer to as a new Earth. Think of it like discovering your computer has been running on a 4,000-year-old operating system, and we finally have the download link for the ultimate open source upgrade.
I love that analogy. But, before you can patch a bug, you have to actually know how the software was supposed to function in the first place.
Right.
So the sources state that literally everything we do operates on a universal 8-skill process cycle. They call this the common operating plane.
Okay, so a universal cycle for everything.
Yeah, the framework argues this cycle applies to any human endeavor, whether you're like brewing a pot of coffee, managing a global supply chain, or building a nation. You use these 8 sequential steps.
Walk me through them.
Sure. You define the task, you plan, develop, do, assess, reflect, learn lessons, and finally, build character.
Okay, I can easily map that onto an individual level. So
Yeah.
I decide to make coffee, right?
Yeah.
That's defining the task.
Okay.
I plan by checking if I have beans. I develop the process by grinding them. I do the action.
The actual brewing part.
Yeah, the brewing. Then I assess if the coffee tastes awful.
Yeah.
I reflect on why. I learn a lesson that I shouldn't use, week-old tap water.
Right. And then your character.
My daily habits.
Yes, your daily habits, they change for tomorrow. That is the cycle in its pure intended form.
It's super logical.
It is. You start with a vision or a task, you execute it, and the end result is personal or societal growth. The beliefs, values, and attitudes you form, which is your character, become the solid foundation for the next task you undertake. The whole cycle is designed to serve human evolution.
But the sources make a massive pivot here, don't they? They argue this natural cycle got hijacked.
Totally flipped. They call our current societal control system the ultimate reverse process.
The reverse process. Okay, so instead of a society building character and learning lessons to improve, what's happening?
Well, if we look at the macro level of our current Gray Diamond society, the cycle doesn't start with a shared vision or a task to improve humanity. It starts at economics.
Economics.
Right. The wealthy, the massive corporations, the financial elite, they initiate the cycle based purely on their own self-interest and, honestly, an underlying fear of losing their resources.
Okay, I need to break down the mechanics of that. Because if a massive corporation initiates the cycle out of fear, how does that actually run the 8 steps in reverse? How does an economic decision at the top cascade all the way down to dictate my personal character?
Well, think about the mechanics of influence in a top-down pyramid. Those holding the economic power use their wealth to sponsor and shape politics.
Okay. Lobbying and all that.
Exactly. And politics in this Gray Diamond reality isn't about a shared community vision. It's about imposing rules and regulations.
Right.
Those political forces then dictate the media narratives, they fund the educational systems, and that forms our social milieu.
So by the time this whole chain reaction reaches the physical environment, which is where, the vast majority of us actually live and work, we aren't defining our own tasks at all.
No, not at all. You're just reacting to an environment that was engineered from the top down.
We're basically just left paying the bill.
Literally and figuratively. We pay in taxes and inflated prices, but also in stress, isolation, and this profound loss of autonomy. The system dictates the do part of your cycle.
Like you have to work a specific job to pay a specific debt.
Exactly. And then you assess and reflect on your life purely based on your survival within that rigged system.
Which forcibly molds our character. We become anxious, competitive, hyper-focused on scarcity because the environment demands it for survival.
Yeah, the cycle is literally manufacturing a specific type of human.
It's like instead of just driving a car in reverse on the highway, it's piping the car's exhaust directly into the cabin.
That is a harsh but mechanically accurate description.
Well, the system is feeding the toxic waste of the elite's scarcity fear into the lungs of the populace, and we've just been conditioned to think breathing smog is natural.
Right. And the sources trace this top-down, competition-based worldview through historical thinkers like Newton and Darwin, basically arguing it has been domesticating us for 4,000 years.
Man, if we've been breathing this exhaust for 4 millennia, it takes a massive shock to break the habit. A system running like that eventually hits a breaking point, right? And the sources point to the year 2020 as that immovable wall.
Yes. The author views the events of 2020 not merely as a health or economic crisis, but through a geological lens.
A geological lens.
Yeah.
Like tectonic plates.
Exactly. It was an unprecedented application of global heat and pressure. Supply chains broke, physical movement halted, and the interlocking mechanisms of that reversed process cycle were just suddenly paralyzed.
And when you apply immense pressure and heat to a basic carbon-based coal, you get a state change. You get a diamond.
Precisely. The central thesis is that the global catalyst of 2020 forced humanity into that state change. We're being pressured to evolve from the basic vulnerable gray diamond into something much more resilient and structurally sound.
There's this Buckminster Fuller quote in the texts, and it perfectly frames this transition. He said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete."
And the red diamond is that new model. It retains the universal 8-skill process cycle, so we still have to plan, develop, and do, but the entire purpose and driving force of the cycle shifts.
So what's the new driving force?
Well, instead of completing a task just to feed an economic machine, the cycle revolves around what they call a heart center.
The heart center. Okay, the sources describe this heart center as operating at a frequency of 500, which they equate to love.
Yes.
I have to pause here because, to a skeptical ear, operating at a frequency of 500 sounds a bit like ungrounded New Age jargon. What scale are we actually measuring here? Why use numbers to describe emotions?
It's a really vital distinction to clarify. The framework draws heavily on consciousness models, very similar to David R. Hawkins' map of consciousness.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah, so in that specific model, human consciousness is measured on a logarithmic scale from 1 to 1,000. The lower frequencies, like 20 for shame or 100 for fear, are contracted survival-based states.
Basically the gray diamond exhaust we were talking about.
Exactly. Now, 500 is the threshold for love, but in this technical context, it doesn't mean like romantic infatuation.
So it's not about holding hands and singing songs with your coworkers.
Far from it. At a frequency of 500, love is defined as a state of reason, understanding, and unconditional support for the whole system. It's actually a structural organizing principle.
That makes a lot more sense.
Right. So when the sources say the red diamond operates at a frequency of 500, they mean the system is mechanically driven by mutual benefit and systemic intelligence, rather than the fragmented defensive frequency of fear.
That fundamentally alters the 8-skill process. If I'm defining a task from a frequency of 100, fear, my goal is hoarding resources to survive against my neighbor.
Yes.
But if I define a task from 500, my goal is creating something that genuinely sustains the ecosystem I'm part of. It's a completely different algorithm.
The algorithm of abundance versus the algorithm of scarcity. But to actually boot up this new algorithm, the framework demands what it calls a terminology upgrade.
A terminology upgrade.
Yeah, we cannot build a frequency 500 reality using frequency 100 language. We have to completely redefine the 4 core spheres of society.
Let's unpack those upgrades, starting with the first sphere, politics.
Yeah.
Because under the gray diamond, politics is all about control. It's this constant, exhausting battle over who gets to hold the steering wheel of the state and force the other half of the country to come along for the ride.
Exactly. But in the red diamond, politics is upgraded to vision. The author quotes the book of Proverbs to anchor this shift. Where there is vision, people prosper.
Okay, I can see how a shared vision prevents the need for top-down micromanagement. But, vision doesn't pave roads, it doesn't put food on the table. At some point, people have to trade goods. If we're stripping away the traditional pyramid of the state, what happens to the economy?
Well, we actually have to drop the word economy altogether.
Really? Drop the word entirely?
Yes. The framework argues that the word itself is infected by that 4,000-year-old glitch we mentioned at the start of the show. So the red diamond swaps economics for exchange.
Let's dig into that glitch then. We teased the story of Joseph earlier. He interprets dreams for the pharaoh and anticipates a 7-year famine. How does that create our modern economic mental model?
Just look at the mechanism of what Joseph actually did with that foresight. He used insider knowledge to hoard all the grain during the years of plenty.
Right.
When the famine hit, the people came to him for food. And first, he took all their money.
Okay.
When the money ran out, he demanded their livestock, then their land, then finally their physical bodies.
Oh, wow. So he enslaved them.
He engineered the first permanent system of mass debt, taxation, and physical enslavement.
That is just, a story we usually read as heroic foresight is actually the blueprint for artificial scarcity. He used a crisis to siphon all the energy and wealth up to the tip of the pyramid.
And the author's argument is that we are still running that exact same famine software today. Modern central banks, fiat currency, and debt-based societies are basically just playing the role of the pharaoh. We've been programmed to assume artificial scarcity is a law of physics.
So exchange in the red diamond is essentially the anti-Joseph protocol.
Mechanically, yes. Exchange focuses on the natural, unhindered flow of energy, time, and ideas. It's based on the true, intrinsic value every human adds to society. It completely removes the artificial scarcity of debt.
Right, so you're trading value for value rather than extracting wealth through a centralized toll booth.
Exactly.
This makes total sense. Debt is really just the hoarding of energy. Instead of a bank loaning me money that doesn't actually exist and charging me interest, which, drains my future energy, I'm exchanging my actual skills directly within my community's shared vision.
Yes.
It's a closed-loop system of energy transfer rather than a leaky bucket.
And when you fix those leaks, when you upgrade your internal vision and the way you exchange energy, it naturally alters your physical reality. This brings us to the third upgrade. The physical environment becomes context.
Wait, if my physical environment becomes my context, does that just mean my immediate neighborhood? Or does the rise of remote work and the AI revolution mean my context is wherever my laptop happens to be?
The latter is key. In the gray diamond, your physical environment was an absolute limit. You had to physically go to the factory or the cubicle to participate in the economy.
Right, you were tied to a location.
But now, technology has fundamentally expanded our context. The sources emphasize that because AI and automation can handle the robotic, repetitive tasks, we are actually freed up to be more human.
We can turn off the screens and build real relationships. Our context isn't a geographical prison anymore. It's the network of people we choose to engage with.
Spot on. And the quality of that engagement leads to the final terminology upgrade. The social milieu, basically how we interact with each other, upgrades to evolution.
Now, when I hear evolution, I immediately default to Darwin, survival of the fittest, red in tooth and claw.
Which is the ultimate gray diamond perspective, right? Darwinian evolution focuses purely on physical survival through competition. But in the red diamond, evolution is about conscious, continuous, positive change.
So it's not about beating the other guy.
No, it's about taking deliberate control of our thoughts and ensuring our speech aligns with truth, honesty, and justice. Doing so mechanically raises the collective frequency of the group. We evolve from biological competition to cognitive mutual aid.
Cognitive mutual aid, I like that. So if we successfully install these 4 upgrades, vision, exchange, context, and evolution, what does the societal architecture actually look like?
The sources describe the final product as the new Earth. And visually, it demands the complete dismantling of the traditional 3-point hierarchical pyramids.
Like the classic corporate org chart. The military chain of command, the government ladder.
Exactly. Triangles and pyramids funnel all power and attention to a single point at the top. The author argues this geometry is an intentional distraction that enables control. The new Earth discards the pyramid entirely in favor of a constellation.
A constellation.
Yeah, we become a constellation of interacting red diamonds.
The sources use this fantastic visual here, a startling murmuration. Have you ever seen those massive flocks of thousands of birds swooping and diving in the sky at dusk?
It's beautiful.
It is. And they fly at 60 kilometers an hour without ever crashing into each other. They have no kingbird, no master. They move in perfect cooperative alignment.
It's a profound biological model for a decentralized society.
But let's dig into the mechanics of that, because humans aren't birds. If we just tell 8 billion people to be a murmuration without a CEO or a president, isn't that a recipe for immediate catastrophic chaos? I mean, how do decentralized starlings actually avoid crashing?
The science behind murmuration directly answers your question. A starling isn't trying to track the entire flock of 10,000 birds. That would completely overload its brain.
Right.
It is only paying attention to its 7 closest neighbors. It constantly adjusts its speed and direction based on local feedback. That's known as the rule of 7.
Oh, that changes everything. So they aren't relying on a grand top-down algorithm. They're running a localized, highly responsive algorithm.
Exactly. And in the Red Diamond framework, that local algorithm is the 8-skill process cycle we discussed at the start.
Oh, the define, task, plan, develop.
Yes. The community still defines the task, plans, develops, and executes. The roads still get paved. The water still runs. The difference is the execution relies on attunement to your immediate context and a shared vision with your neighbors, rather than waiting for rigid orders from the top of a pyramid.
So the discipline and structure are completely intact. The motivation is what changed.
Perfectly said.
We moved from the fear-based compliance of frequency 100 to the highly attuned systemic intelligence of frequency 500. I mean, you don't need a pharaoh threatening you with starvation to plant crops if you are deeply connected to a shared vision of prosperity with your local community.
Exactly. The Gray Diamond was a necessary developmental stage for humanity. It taught us basic structural arithmetic. It built the roads and the initial supply chains. But the Red Diamond is maturity.
It's time to grow up.
Yes, and the sources really challenge us to run a diagnostic on our own lives. Are your personal process cycles running in reverse? Are your daily actions initiated by economic fear and artificial scarcity?
Or are you anchoring yourself in vision and fair exchange? Are you operating from that heart center?
Because upgrading your operating system isn't just some passive download. Redefining your world from politics and economics to vision and exchange is a daily practice of choosing coherence over compliance.
Let's synthesize everything we've unpacked today. We are basically moving from a linear, randomized, top-down world running on the fumes of ancient scarcity to a cyclical, connected constellation running on abundance. The intense pressures of recent years haven't been breaking you, they've been forging you. You are the diamond.
And it requires a real structural shift in how we view each other, moving from a strict hierarchy to a balanced, multifaceted network.
I want to leave you with a concept from the sources that perfectly encapsulates this geometric shift. The text references C.K. Prahalad's economic research, suggesting that to eradicate global poverty, we must literally morph the global income pyramid into a diamond.
It fundamentally changes the geometry of human potential.
So imagine walking into your workplace tomorrow, or looking at your neighborhood. Mentally take that rigid pyramid we've all been trained to climb and flatten it into a diamond.
Just flip the whole perspective.
Right. If you suddenly saw everyone around you not as steps on a ladder to scramble over, but as equal, interacting facets of a shared vision, what is the very first thing you would do differently today? If society is a treadmill, maybe the first step to getting off is realizing you don't have to run in a straight line anymore. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We'll catch you on the next one.